You'd be better off forfeiting. This was the advice given to both Garfield Davis and Gabriel Phantasma in the 2 months prior to the tournament.
What? Why?
Garfield asked, face twisted in confusion as the woman in front of him took a long puff of her cigarette before responding. Because you're not gonna get this before you need to fight. By the time the tournament rolls around, you'll be lucky to be able to bend, let alone proficiently enough to battle. The woman was called Elizabeth Sidney, her ruby lips once more wrapping around his cigarette as she brushed aside a strand of raven hair back into a bob. The student clutching his head in his hands in astonishment.
But that's why you're here, right? To help me. To teach me how to bend.
I am here to coach you. That doesn't mean I need to sugarcoat things for you. Your archetype is gonna be a bitch to train up. Perhaps more so than any other we'll find in the tournament. Elsewhere, in another gym, Gabriel was having a similar conversation. What do you mean? What makes my archetype so difficult? The quiet young man asked. The man before him taking a slow, deep sip from a flask before looking at him with sunken eyes. Your archetype, like mine, is of a yin-yang energy, or pure energy arts, as it were. In order to bend it, your own energy, your own spirit, must be unbendable. The man spoke. The man's name was Hayden von Toten. His hollow cheeks littered with stubble, piercing icy blue eyes accentuated by dark circles. Unbendable? Yes, that means you can't allow doubt or hesitation, even emotion into your thinking when you bend, or else you may find your spirit corrupted and destroyed. Or worse. What? Worse? Gabriel asked tentatively, his trainer simply giving him a long, mournful look as he sipped from his flask, his skin, for a fleeting moment, seeming to become translucent, skeleton showing as a dark liquid flowed down his throat as he swallowed. For now, all we can do is focus on training your spirit. Your opponents in the tournament aren't likely to have been as unfortunate. Your archetype just doesn't work with your personality. His thought rolled through both fighters' heads as they kept their hands raised in forfeit. Shock across the faces of everyone as they stared at the ring in silence. What do you mean, you forfeit? The two of you haven't even fought yet! The announcer shouted in bewilderment. Boos from the crowd roared out as the two young men simply stood silent, eyes downcast as grimaces adorned their faces. So is it my turn already? A shout came from the sides, heads turning towards a stubble-faced young man walking out onto the field. Hold on, kid. We still have to resolve this fight. You can't just... But neither of them want to fight, yeah? Remy interrupted. Even if you get one of them to proceed, you'd probably just forfeit again. You guys disagree? The two spiritus artifacts glanced at each other, unspoken understanding forming between the two as they properly looked each other over, neither showing any more confidence than when they entered the ring. With heavy hearts, they nodded solemnly, the announcer giving a defeated sigh. I suppose we'll have to move on early then. Very well, second fight of the Greenhorn tournament is forfeit on both sides. The crowd erupted in boos once more as the two boys returned to the sides, the announcer calling up Remy's opponent as the coaches tried to ease them. You made the right decision, Gary. Don't let this get you down, Elizabeth comforted, rubbing her student's shoulders while Hayden offered his own a drink. I'm sorry it had to be like this, Gabriel, but it's better this way. I didn't expect a silver lining, though. It's very fortunate you had a brother in arms, so to speak, as your opponent. The fighter simply remained silent as the next match went underway. Sorry about that, folks. The action's gonna pick up right again, right now, the announcer shouted in an attempt to reinvigorate the crowd. At my side a shifty-looking young man with an air of finesse. His smooth talk and cool demeanor said to have earned him many broken hearts as he's broken bones. With 50 points to his name, the new generation's 14th son, Remy Jupade! Double-faced young man waved genially at the crowd, wide smile beaming out as he basked in the spotlight, shining off the pin of the dress shirt. his outfit a deep maroon with sunglasses hanging off and sleeves rolled back. In this, he shot the young demon in the sides, a mischievous look, knowing the two were now much closer to a fight between each other. "And at my side be, tall as a mountain and strong as an ox, this muscular lad looks like he hopped right out of a comic book, tying with his opponent at 50 points, the new generation's 15th son, Rocky Descalcio." True to the announcer's word, the man called Rocky had a proper superhero physique, a wide torso with bulging muscles and a chiseled chin. His outfit, however, was more akin to a circus strongman, a deep-cut black stripe one-piece complete with a belt and boots. He quietly stared down Remy, arms crossed as he observed his opponent, both men getting into their fighting stances once the referee arrived. "It's time for sparks to fly, folks! Hold on to your seats and let's get this show rolling! Let the match begin!" Once more the bell rang out and the referee retreated to the sides, Remy quick to step in and take a shot at his foe, peppering him with a slew of punches. Only one arm on guard, Rocky allowed many of the young man's attacks to slip through unimpeded, retaliating only with a heavy open palm strike. Seeing the strike coming with ease, the stubbled fighter opted to simply step back, managing to keep himself just out of reach of Descalcio's hand. Once he regained his footing, Remy would continue his assault on the broader opponent. However, the moment he did, the young man found himself flying backwards, spiraling in the air as a sudden powerful rush of wind sent him back. A gasp erupted from the crowd. Remy worked to try and reorient himself, managing to land safely with a roll. Natural agility allowing him to transition back into a stance. Unfortunately, he had still been sent quite a ways away from his opponent. "Well, that's not great. Was hoping for an element I could see." The young Archetype grumbled a moment before letting his smile return, his opponent prepping for another strike. "Ah well, no point complaining." Focusing on his foe, Jupardet dashed forward, keeping close eye on the ground as Descalcio once more struck the air, a blast of wind racing towards Remy, knocking up dirt and grass as he moved with a decent idea of where the attack was. Remy strode headlong towards the blast, head racing as he came closer and closer to the wind. With only moments before impact, the gutsy fighter used a crossover step to deftly dodge the air, whistling past him as he kept pace with his foe, much to Rocky's surprise. "Keep up the air, hammers!" A voice came from the sides, belonging to a broad, dark-skinned man easily in his mid-40s with grey in his side of his curly hair. His name was Eddie Jones, or Jones the Stone, as he was called. He'd been assigned as Descalcio's coach, a perfect fit given the intricacies of his archetype. Following his mentor's advice, Rocky took a wide, grounded stance and continued to palm the air, heavy blast of wind shooting forth, only to be nimbly dodged by the lead Jupardet. Continuing to sidestep the air blasts until, at last, he found himself in reach of Descalcio. Remy tucked his fist back under his shoulder, preparing to deliver a strong shot to Rocky's jaw. The man's guard oddly open as he attempted to step away, foot hovering over the ground before stomping down heavily. "Whoa, whoa!" Remy cried out as he was shot into the air, the ground beneath him shooting out like a piston and launching the boy through the sky. "Gotcha," Rocky said under his breath, grounding his feet with a wide stance before pummeling the air, a barrage of high-pressure wind blasts speeding towards Remy as he began to reach the plateau of his height. "It's over," Van Toten stated bluntly. With Jupardet in the air, he'd become an easy target with very little defense options, Coach Sidney thinking much the same. "The only elements that could save him in this situation are air, fire, and light, none of which could stop the blowback and would need more extensive training for a proper redirect or even aerial maneuver. Energy arts are a crapshoot, and the other three basically need you to be grounded to your source. Poor boy's lost." "Don't count my brat out yet," said a woman defiantly, a long green highlighted hair covering part of her face, as the other two coaches looked at her, surprised. Though the sudden trip into space had caught him off guard, Remy was no stranger to the situation he was in. Taking a deep breath, he managed to position himself facing the powerful wind, hands extended to catch the air as it hurtled towards him. With fluid, steady motions, the dauntless young man pulled his hands back just as they made contact with the wind, dragging the lead air bullet around himself, with each of the others following suit, orbiting around Juparde rapidly as they began to flash between red and black.
Call red,
Remy calmly stated. Wait, that's... Elizabeth gasped out, Hayden turning towards Remy's trainer, vexed at this turn of events.
Haruko, his archetype isn't...
The gambler, obviously, Kusaha said dryly, watching her student hit the plateau, hovering a moment before descending. Stupid woman, Elizabeth chastised. How could you let him enter with that? A spiritus artifact's power is already demanding. This one is outright menacious. To everyone, including him. You should have had him quit the profession entirely. Forced him, if necessary. Kusaha simply grimaced in disgust. Cuts. No wonder your boys gave up. Such horrid attitudes, even for you two.
This isn't a joke, Haruko. If he called it wrong, I won't be blasted to the ceiling.
Actually, worse. The air will converge and crush him in the pressure. The sardonic coach said undisturbed. How are you so calm about this? Sydney asked indignantly. Couldn't say. I guess I simply have faith in my boy, Haruko responded bluntly, paying no mind to the horrified looks on her peers' faces. The colors of the wind rapidly shifted between red and black as Remy fell, a swirl like a roulette surrounding him, slowly, steadily coming to a halt when at last the colors settled. Black. All at once the air bullets grew and pulled themselves into Remy, colliding in an explosion of air and dust, much to the dismay of his friends and onlookers, save his own coach. Everyone watched as the cloud of dust began to settle, wind still rushing in his ears, growing oddly loud as the announcer spoke up. Well, I suppose we have a win. Whoosh! With an immense speed, something shot out from the dust cloud, hurtling straight towards Descalcio. With a thunderous bang, and a fist slid across Rocky's face. Cuts and bruises decorated it alongside its owner's own smiling visage. The two fighters skidded across the ground once more, and the crowd was stunned silent as both Remy and Rocky rolled into the wall. The stubbled young man managed to recover first, shaky and injured, but nonetheless robust. The gambler quickly went to putting pressure on his dizzy foe, managing to knock his arm off course as he hurriedly shot out an air bullet. Juparde followed with several hooks across Rocky's face, the man desperately putting up a guard only for a fist to slip behind his arms, knocking him against the wall. Before the assault could continue, Descalcio took several quick breaths and pounded the concrete wall, a chunk of it shooting out at Remy, knocking him several feet away, leaving both fighters sprawling on the ground, catching their breath. The audience burst into cheers, Felix and Jessica looking on with relief while many other fighters and their coaches watched with astonishment and intrigue, curious as to how the young man managed to withstand the air convergence. None more than the still light-headed Rocky. Oh, how did you? Pretty remarkable, right? Remy replied breathily. As a gambler, it's important to make your own luck. Limbs had to take it on the chin, but I managed to stop most of the air in front of me, and with some proper positioning, what I could not stop, I simply used to propel me. Rocky gazed at his foe with awe, the damage to his arms and legs coming into focus while his torn back was bare for the audience, still cheering as the announcer added fuel to the hype. Truly amazing! I've seen fighters play fast and loose in this arena many times before, but not till today have I seen one so dauntless as Remy the Gambler. While the crowd screamed on, the two men kept their eyes locked on each other, daring the other to make a move. Finally managing to stand, Descalcio took a deep breath, firmly planting his feet in the ground, and through blurry vision focused on Juparde. Once more threw out a rapid series of palm strikes. The air screamed as it rushed for Remy. The boy sharply inhaled through his nose before firmly extending his bruised palms out to catch the wind bullets once again. Cold. Right. All held their breath as the air around the gambler began to change colors, the faces of his friends tense with worry, his own visage calm. In that moment, Descalcio took a more scrunched stance, back leg bent while his front remained planted, leaning forward with his arms curled to his side.
He's juicing up my element. If he calls it right, I'm ready for him, Rocky thought to himself. If he calls it wrong, well, guess I win either way.
The moment seemed to last hours as the air whirled around, a storm of red and black mixing around Jupaday, slowly coming to an end. Red, black, red, black, red, black, red, black, red. The crowd burst into cheers as the two men grinned, the gambler wasting no time in making his play, throwing out one of his one air bullets at double power. In response, Rocky stepped forward and thrust out both palms. With a thunderous boom, a massive amount of air surged out, rushing on a collision course with its older sibling.
Even with a power boost, those 5 shots can't overwhelm this. It's my victory!
Rocky held his posture as he assured himself. Sure enough, the first bullet dissipated against the massive shot, same with the second. Descalcio watched as the dirt and dust was whirled into the air. Another bullet tossed out before the wind ripped through the space Remy occupied. All at once, tension left Rocky's body, arms collapsing to his side as he listened for a distant thud. A sign his foe had been thrown into the wall or out of the arena. All he heard was a powerful whoosh from his side. Panic filled his body once more. Descalcio turned to strike, palm moving forward desperately to counter a straight-on attack. The world seemed to move in slow motion for Rocky, his attack slipping below Remy as the young gambler flew over his arm and threw his last bullet into his face. With screaming winds, Rocky Descalcio was blasted into the ground, Jupaday crashing into the Seine with the roll. To Rocky, it was a total surprise. To the audience, however, they had watched as Remy tried his luck on the first 2 of his blast before flinging himself away from the third. After that, with one more propulsion, the plan had come to its conclusion, a perfectly executed counter. Once more, cheers filled the stadium as Remy struggled to raise himself, his foe limp as the referee rushed to him. Descalcio's coach likewise made his way to his pupil from the sides. Faint hope he would rise before the count ended chipped away till all he could do was accept his student's defeat and ready himself to keep up his spirits. That's it, folks. Descalcio's down for the count. The winner of the Greenhorn Tournament's third round, Remy, the gambler. The stubble-faced young man took a bow before the audience, letting himself be washed in the adoration of the crowd while Descalcio was healed up, trainer kneeling by his side as he came to.
Coach, I lost, huh?
Eddie simply nodded solemnly as the student stared up at the stadium ceiling.
God, I didn't even get an Archetype intro.
Don't focus on the wrong things, Jones reprimanded. You did great. Even when your guard was down, you managed to react accordingly. With the little info you had, in the end, it all came down to luck. Luck, Rocky replied, clearly not comfortable with the idea, wondering if he had paid more attention. Could he have aimed his attack right, or perhaps he should have used earth instead of air? Descalcio laid there a moment longer before his master stomped the ground, the earth beneath Rocky standing straight to put him on his feet. Come on, you want an introduction? Make one yourself, Jones encouraged, patting his pupil's back before pointing him towards Remy. With a nod, Rocky quickly made his way to the front of his victorious opponent. Looking him in the eyes, he spoke.
You know this already, but my name's Rocky, and my archetype is the striker. You said earlier that a fighter makes his own luck. I think this law showed me I still have room to grow.
The man slowly raised his fist before Remy, and with a firm smile and a fire in his eyes, he spoke.
I vow, next time we fight, luck will be on my side.
I look forward to our next game. Remy bumped fist with his opponent as the crowd cheered, 2 men walking back to the stands as the arena was cleaned for the next match.